Hello YouTube, this is Shirley426 and today we have the review of the HG Bunyip Ginga. Now first of all, for the past few months or even years, I think when I first saw this image, I thought this was a 30-minute mission kit because overall the color, the design and such, to me it looked very 30-minute mission, so at the time I just passed on, but later only like a few weeks or even a few months ago I noticed that this was a kyoukai senki kit, and I really enjoy the kyoukai senki stuff. Granted, I think I did review most of it. Maybe if I had to be more picky, maybe I didn't review maybe one or two things. But once again, yeah, overall I enjoyed the kyoukai senki stuff. So at the moment I realized this was a kyoukai senki kit, I got it right away. Now, first of all, as you can see, it's not on a rotating stand. That is because this thing is pretty big. For what it is, it's pretty big and wide, and basically the mass bulk is pretty large to the point where, and the way at least in this stance, it can't really stand on my rotating base because it's much more wider for the surface area. So yeah, I mean, but just to be clear, this thing has two modes. This is the more like speed mode where it can use its wheels to move faster, and then the other one, so the high-speed transportation form is this form, and then the other one is like using, you open up the legs and make it walk or bounce around. So yeah. Alright, so to get into detail, there was actually a kit called the Bunyip Boomerang. If you remember, it was the green kit that looked like a walker kind of thing. This is the updated / upgraded version of it. Alright, so let's get on to the review right away. So first of all, as usual, let's go over the components. So first of all, what you get, of course, is the main unit itself. In terms of equipment, everything you see here is what you get. You get a Gatling gun. You have this. At first, I thought this was like some sort of bazooka type weapon, but turns out, according to the manual, this is the flamethrower. So yeah, you actually get a flamethrower. And keep in mind, these are technically not arms, more like as in like in Gunpla where you have actual human hands. No, these are just shields and just. It gives out the illusion that these are arms. So these are like shields, and then on the inside we have these small machine cannons as well, but you can see there are no hands. So equipment wise, that is pretty much it. But once again, this thing is supposed to be like customized really heavily because you can see all these ports going on here as well. They're like everywhere, even on the top. So yeah, it has a lot of customization, potential, of course, which is why at first I thought this was a kyoukai senki kit. Alright, so we have some stickers here. Now these green ones are obviously all the sensors that you see on the top here. These gray ones are supposed to be like one of those stickers that you kind of wrap around the weapons here, like on the gray area, which I decided not to because they don't really look that great, and then once again, wrapping around a round surface never ends well. So yeah, so I would say maybe you can color it or just don't use them because they look good without them in general. Alright, so before we go on to the articulation stuff, let's talk about the leftover parts. Now, the leftover parts are mostly from the Bunyip Boomerang kit, but once again, I'm kind of surprised like how much parts from the Bunyip Boomerang kit that they actually use and utilize in this, because there were some, I wasn't expecting them to use the actual frame of the Bunyip Boomerang head because the design was entirely different, but they actually used most of the frame inside this thing, so which was kind of crazy. But yeah, so here we have some leftover parts. This one I accidentally cut off from here because once again it was kind of tricky to figure out which part was what without looking at the numbers. But yeah, here we have some armor parts, leftover parts, and then here we have some repeats going on here. We have the multiple joint parts as leftover parts. Now these are cut off from the plates, as you can tell. So just want to point out these are multiple joints. And then here we have another repeat of that, but without the two pieces here. And here we have like the end tip of the frame part. You get repeats of these as well. And then these parts, which this one I really don't remember what this is. But once again, this one is, if you remember the Bunyip Boomerang kit, they had these like really short stubby arms in the front like a T-Rex. But instead of hands, they would have these these spikes or pikes, whatever you call it these days. So in the front. Of course, I believe to be more color accurate, you had to color them in yellow or gold, if I remember correctly. And here are the parts to make those arms as well. And once again, another leftover part from the frames as well. Alright, so let's see what we got here. Now, Unfortunately, due to some very unlucky timing, my new desk did not arrive and has decided to arrive on Monday, which is also another problem because which is a work day. I have zero idea how this is going to work. Once again, hopefully the height of this bookshelf will be enough, but just to give you an idea of the bulk of this thing, here is a typical 1:144 scale HG kit. Now keep in mind, Kyoukai Senki kits are usually written as 1:72 scale, but keep in mind that doesn't mean like it's supposed to be half of the size of a gunpla, because you know, if you look at the the whole units of these things, the size difference, the size concept is very different from the Gundam universe. So you can see the bulk here. This is, keep in mind, this is just the folded up version when you think about it. You can see the mass bulk. The bulk difference here is huge, and once again, once you open up the legs and make him go up, he's gonna be much taller as well. So yeah. Alright, so let's see what we got. So let's start with the top section here. So obviously on the top section here we have all these sensors, which are all stickers, and we have this Gatling gun which can be easily detached by this peg here. So we have multiple ports here. So as I mentioned before, you have multiple options for customization here. Here we have the Gatling gun. Now, as it may look like it can rotate, but no, it doesn't rotate like that, because the way how this is connected is that you slap two pieces together on each side, and that's the way how it goes. But once again, with the Gatling gun, just to give you guys reference, obviously because it's on a peg, you can rotate it around as long as you don't collide the handle on the back here. And then going up and down is possible, so you have a little bit, you know, extra movement there. And once again, if you don't like this, you can always take this part off, and you can see that there is a handle on the back. So if you want to use this on any other kit, it is possible as well. All right, and then let's look at the somewhat arms here. So keep in mind, these are, while I am calling these arms, once again, these things do not actually have hands, so there's no way for these guys to actually hold stuff. So once again, the way how this is connected here, this is the way how they're connected. There's this long shaped, you know, joint here. You push it all the way in and you're good to go. And then we have another second joint here that allows you to move to the side like that. So you can see that you can have about a 90-degree bend to the outward side. Of course, do be careful when you're moving this, because the plastic here is kind of stiff here, and I'm already seeing some stress marks. And then going to the back, swiveling to the back a little bit is possible, and swiveling to the front is also possible here. But there should be also another joint here. So let's just get this out. There we go. So this part is connected with a plastic ball joint here. So you do have a little bit of wiggle space going on here. And then obviously rotating should be possible as long as you know your way around, but not full circle, because the equipment is actually colliding there. So as well, there we go. Let me just clean up this whole joint here. And then once again, on the inside here is a machine cannon. This is actually the exact same gun that was used on the Bunyip Boomerang, but once again, in that case, you would fold up, the gun would be able to fold up to the side and then close in as well inside to the head. So yeah, pretty cool design here. And then we have a large shield going on here with, once again, another 4 ports here. Now on the other arm, it's exactly the same, but once again, here we have the flamethrower. Now in order to connect the flamethrower to the arm, you have to use one of these joints as well, which they do provide, and slap it on here. Now they do give you another one here as a leftover piece, so I just didn't want to lose this thing, so I decided to just slap it onto the other side as well. Of course, the problem is this is mostly meant for one side, because on this side there is this canister which you're not going to be able to utilize it as well. But once again, just to give you guys a general idea, once again, if you don't like the whole idea of using a flamethrower on the shield, there is a handle on the back here, and you can use it whatever you want to do so. So that's that. Alright, so now let's look at the main body here. Now the main body, if I remember correctly, yeah, you do have a little bit of wiggle movement, but currently I'm all the way folded up, so there and kind of locked up in place because of the oval format here. So I'll get into the more details in terms of the body articulation once we have the legs all opened up here. But for now, in this form, once again, you can see the legs are connected with these giant pegs here, so there's no way these things are going to be loose. You do have a little bit of range of movement in this form as well, so a little bit of rotation, not 360, but a little bit of forward and backward movement here, and you do have a little bit to the side movement here to get some angles if you want to do so. And then once again, these wheels actually do roll. The front wheel does roll, and then the second one also does move as well. And then you can have these parts. Now these parts are not supposed to be touching the ground when in this form, but they do almost, depending on how you angle this, they can almost touch the ground. So sometimes getting this stance might be a little bit tricky time to time, because I've had cases where this part is actually touching the ground, hence the stance looking very awkward. Alright, so we've seen the basics of the high-speed form. Now I'll be right back with the legs opened up, and we'll see the articulation from there. Okay, I'm back, and I was able to open up the legs and basically clean up a few things, and I'm really glad that this doesn't actually reach all the way up, but there is only a little room left. Alright, so we have the overall walking position format as well. Once again, you can definitely design this or form this in your more preferred way depending on how you do it. I just went with the generic basic format that the manual goes with. So yeah, you can make it go taller by opening up or stretching out all the way up to the legs all the way up. Or if you wanted to give him a lower stance, then you can basically fold these a little bit downwards as well. Just to give you guys the idea, now you guys saw the difference between in its high speed form. Well, it had a mass bulk, but it was low onto the ground, but still bigger than the 1/44 HG kit, and you can see it got much taller here. So you can see this thing, despite being like an HG level kit, it's big and bulky as well, and has a lot of customization opportunity as well. Alright, so let's continue on the articulation aspect. Now, I saw there was something locking up on the body, but in general, it's just that because of the new design, this thing is not able to utilize some of its articulation formats, because on the back here there's actually like some kind of piston action here that you can see when you're moving up and down. But once again, because of the new armor system right over here, that thing is just blocking the way. But once again, so you have like minimal movement up and downwards, but you do still get a pretty nice range of left and right rotation, but not to the point where it can go 360, because obviously the way how this is structured is not really meant to go 360. But once again, it is enough for what this thing is. And once again, I think I mentioned this in my Bunyip Boomerang review as well. My biggest concern in these type of stands or legs is, can this actually maintain its position? Can the legs or feet withhold the overall weight? And the answer is technically yes for the Bunyip Boomerang, because that thing is actually a pretty light kit. But with all this stuff on here, I can actually see, after I position, I can see like a slight movement on the feet that it wants to go down. So while it's not gonna drop down instantly, there is a chance where, depending on your stance, it could get very tricky to get this guy in that position or stance. So make sure you just balance this thing in general, because keep in mind, the legs or feet, this is the part that has to be on the ground. Technically this and a little bit on the front. So the surface area is not that great when you think about it. But still, I mean, it works. It's easy to balance, because I've seen worse kits as well regarding this. Alright, so let's see the leg articulation here. So once you have the legs opened up, you can go forward, moving the back legs backwards. Forward doesn't change as well, of course. The tricky part, I would say, is the back skirt, because the way how this back skirt works is that there is actually a joint here that allows you to move all the way out. So if you definitely want to utilize this when you're moving the legs to make sure it doesn't go out of the way. But there's also another peg here that connects it, so you do have a little bit of flapping gimmick here. So yeah. And then, let's see, actually, going to the side 90 degrees, oh boy, this is getting confusing. Going to the side 90 degrees is also possible, and then technically, this thing does have a side swivel, but because of the position here, make sure it's in the right position. So it's one of those very stiff side swivels as well, so yeah. Now, for the manual, this part, you can all like push it all the way here, but they tell you to just, move it like this. They want you to place this like on forward to make it look like some kind of knee armor is my guess. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to point that out. You can move this up and down as well. Now this would be a little bit also possible in this high speed mode, so just wanted to point that out. And then once you have these parts out of the way, you have the legs that can go all the way back. Once again, this is mostly for the transformation, and going forward, not so much, because there is something blocking the way in terms of structure. So there is a little bit of limit there. And then we have this back part here, which may look like you can like adjust the height, but no, the way how it's connected is kind of interesting. So you cannot move this up and down, but the wheels do spin. And then finally we have the feet that can fold backwards, or it'll go a little bit forwards, and then despite not being ball joint, because of the way how it's designed, you still have a nice pivot joint as well, so which allows the kit to be standing in pretty much any pose you want to do so. It's just that if you're more used to gunpla with the typical humanoid form, this type of leg stance it's gonna take some time getting used to, because I remember for my first kyoukai senki kits like the byakuchi, because the way how the legs are stance are kind of like in this shape format. Of course the structure is different, but once again, it's not the straight leg type, it's more like the werewolf type leg, so it took me a while to get used to those stances as well. And as you can see, I'm trying to balance this thing and make sure that the weight distribution is okay. And that is pretty much it for the review. So once again, this thing is, if you want to try something new or something different that's not Gundam or Gunpla, yeah, I definitely recommend the Kyoukai Senki stuff as well. Now, the anime, I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't that great. I mean, season 1 was okay. Season 2 went a little bit too political for my taste. While there was a good amount of mecha action, but still, I feel like it was just trying to be too serious in a different way. But and then these things are actually from another side story that you can actually watch on YouTube. But once again, I personally enjoyed the Kyoukai Senki kits, which is why I mostly purchased them. And once again, they have a very different style of a build, so I think it's a really nice, refreshing build to get. Because sometimes when you're building Gunpla a lot, you sometimes get tired of doing the same thing over and over, or the same structural design. So, you know, buying and building these kits, you know, once in a while does definitely refresh your mind. So I do recommend one. So if you're into like stuff that doesn't look like a humanoid, that has like some sort of transformation and has a lot of customization, you know, possibilities, not on top in terms of like modification by slapping on a lot of weapons, I think this might be your guy. Anyway, that was pretty much it for the review. This was the review of the Bunyip Ginga from the Kyoukai Senki series. If you guys got any questions or requests in the comment below, I still have more stuff to buy and build and maybe reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.